Hi guys, if you're new to my channel, my name is Matty Conrad. I'm a multiple international award-winning barber, and I'm really excited to be able to share some of my favorite tips and tricks for barbers and clients alike here on my YouTube channel. So do me a favor, go and click subscribe, like, and comment below. Let me know what videos you'd like to see, and hopefully we'll get those made. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let's begin. Today I'm going to teach you how to cut a mid-fade on my friend Cristobal. I love working with pictures, and I like to make sure that we have an absolute agreement before we get started. This is a really good habit to get into when you go to your barber, especially if you're looking for a change. You want to make sure that you're getting exactly what you ask for. For this haircut, you're going to need to have an adjustable clipper, a trimmer, a 0.5 guard, a number 1 guard, a 1.5 guard, a nice soft bristle brush, and a clipper comb. You're also going to need a pair of scissors and texturizing shears. First thing I'm going to do is wet down the top of the hair. Now I don't want to soak everything down, I just like adding a little moisture to the top so I can control the hair and get it out of the way when I go to cut the sides. Then I'm going to grab my clipper comb. I'm going to just comb the hair out of the way, making kind of a horseshoe shape on top and separating the hair from the top and sides right at the corner of the head. I'm going to use a couple of clips just to keep this out of the way. Then I'm going to grab my adjustable clipper. And the first thing I like to do is establish a weight line. This is the length that's up at the top. You can see I flare my comb away using a clipper over comb technique where the clipper runs right along the comb. I flare that out to create a nice clean weight line before I get started so that I know the length that I'm going to be looking for at the top of that section. I try and make sure this is as clean as possible before I begin, but then I'm going to go through the lower areas of the section and I'm just going to clean the lengths up a little bit to make it easier for me to see. It's important that you know how thick the comb is that you're working with when you do a clipper over comb right against the scalp. Most combs have a width that is equal to roughly a 1 guard, but this one's a little bit tighter, so I'm going to make sure that I don't get too close. Then I'm going to grab my brush and I'm going to brush all of the hair down. Brushing is a really important part of fading, and you're probably going to want to have this brush in your hand almost the whole time. Then I'm going to grab my trimmer and we're going to set our skin line. I'm going to use the trimmer in its natural position and I'm going to set a line that is just below the parietal point, roughly about a finger width and a half up from the ear. Now you want to keep this line nice and linear, so I'm using my corner of my blade to create a nice arcing shape behind the ear because I don't want to have any corners or rough edges. In the back here, I'm just going to punch that line in using my trimmer. Just to make it more comfortable, I'm going to turn the trimmer over and remove all of the hair up to that line. Then I'm going to grab my adjustable clipper. Now I want to make sure that my cutting plane is facing upwards and not pointing at the head, so I'm going to keep my elbow nice and low to the side. That way I make sure that when I work my arm upward, the cutting plane is going vertical. I'm going to set the clipper open all the way, and we're going to start by pushing that line up by about a ½ an inch, with the clipper all the way open with a slight rocking motion at the top, just to soften the line. I want to keep this pretty consistent along the sides, but we may get just a tiny bit wider, maybe to 3/4 of an inch in the back because there's more growth area. Then I'm going to close my clipper down by half. Now I'm going to go over that same section again, working just slightly lower than I did previous, not allowing the clipper to go all the way up to that second line. I'm using a real slight rocking motion here to try and blend that hair. Then I'm going to close the clipper all the way forward, and I'm going to work just along that bottom shadow, trying to remove that extra line. What I want here is a seamless blend that goes from skin to a full open clipper. Sometimes in the back you're going to run into indentations that are hard to get. So I used just the corner of the clipper, angling it away from the head shape. That's going to allow me to get into some tighter areas that are tricky to get with a full blade. Then I'm going to apply my one guard, and I'm going to open it all the way up. I'm going to take a much larger section over the new weight line. This is going to have a much bigger rocking motion because we're trying to blend out to longer lengths of hair. I'm always keeping my clipper parallel to that weight line. And you'll notice the rocking motion that I'm using at this point. Just to make sure we're going into the grain of the hair, I'm going to turn my clipper on its side and I'm going to angle it away from the scalp and push forward. This is just going to make sure we get all of the hair nice and even. Angling the clipper away makes sure we don't break down our corner. Then I'm going to close my clipper all the way, and I'm going to use a rocking motion to start blending out just slightly lower than the highest line we've made. Now I'm going to put on a half guard and open the clipper all the way. I'm going to go over the same section that I just cut, making sure that everything is uniform. Then we're going to close the clipper down halfway, and we're going to start blending out that line until it disappears. Once that side is blended, it's time to start on the other side. So in case you forgot the steps, let's go back through it so you can get them locked down. First, I'm going to establish my weight line at the top corner. And then at the lower parts of the sides and back, I'm going to cut the hair to a uniform length. I want to make sure the weight line matches up just above the occipital bone in the back. Then we're going to take our trimmer and establish our skin line just below the parietal point, roughly about a finger width and a half up from the ear. And we're going to make sure that line sits nice and round with no sharp corners. We want that line to have a nice flow. In the back, remember, you want to drop that line low enough that you have room to blend. It might not match up at first, but just wait. Then we're going to take our clipper and we're going to open it all the way up, and we're going to move that line up about 1 finger depth or about 1/2 inch. Use a slight rocking motion to establish a bit of a blend at the top of that section. Once we come around the back, you'll see that we're starting to blend that little corner out just below the occipital bone. Remember, in the back, the section can grow to about 3/4 of an inch. Then we're going to close the clipper down halfway and start our blending. Remember, we're not going all the way to the top of the section. We're starting the blend about halfway in the middle of that section. Still using that same rocking motion to try and blend it to the lengths above. Then we'll close our clipper all the way down and buff out that faint line that's left behind. Then we're going to put on our one guard and open the clipper all the way up to work higher above that section with a slightly bigger rocking motion, blending up into the length above. You'll notice that I put a little bit of tension on the skin below. This keeps the line in place and prevents the skin from flexing and moving. Then we'll close our clipper down halfway and start to blend downwards. Remember, we're not going as high as we did in the previous section. We're working just slightly below where our last section left off. Still using that rocking motion. Then we're going to put on our half guard all the way up and work even lower still blending down, lightening the weight line. Then we're going to close our clipper halfway and keep blending tighter, lower, and lower. At this point, you should really only be working in the bottom 1/3 of this section. Keep maintaining that rocking motion to blend into the length above. Lastly, we'll push the lever all the way forward, closing the clipper and using the half guard to blend out the final line. Under the occipital bone can be a tricky spot to blend, so this is a trick I like to use. I'll come across underneath the occipital in both directions using just the corner of the clipper back and forth until I get a nice blend. This is a good trick to try and get out those hard to reach places. Once that's done, I'm going to comb the length of the hair out of the way, and I'm going to take my clipper comb and just clean up the weight line, making sure it's nice and uniform all the way around. Remember to flare the comb away from the head shape to protect the corner. Then I'll take my comb vertical, just to make sure we have a nice clean angle from the occipital bone outward. We want this to look nice and clean and linear as possible. Alright, now that the sides are done, it's time to wet down the top and create our shape. And make sure the hair is thoroughly dampened before I start my cut. I'm going to section the hair across the top of the head, pushing the front hair forward and letting the hair drape down over the crown. I like to comb this part into a natural fall, and then I'm going to grab a cutting comb and my shears. I'll start on the side away from the part line. I section along the weight line towards the occipital bone. Then I take this section and I elevate it outwards along the weight line. I'll then clean that hair directly to the weight line. Then I'll take a subsequent section, again pointed right at the occipital bone, draw it out to the weight line, and use it as a guide to cut my section. I like to make sure I have a nice clean tension on the hair, and I'm making it the cleanest lines possible. Each time I take a section towards the center, I'll draw it out to the side. This allows me to build length towards the interior, which will help me control a jumpy crown. Once I cross over the center, I'm going to draw the hair towards the side I just cut. Then I'm going to stand on the opposite side of the head, taking diagonal sections, elevating them out, and cutting them to the weight line. I try and keep my sections as clean as possible. This allows for a much stronger looking shape. I always keep my fingers pointing towards the occipital bone. This allows me to control the elevation and create nice clean lines that all smooth back together. I'm going to keep doing this until I cross over the center or until I run out of hair. Now that we've cut the back, it's time to move into the top. We're going to take a section right at the top of the head and we're going to over-direct it backwards. I'm going to cut the hair in a descending fashion, so the longest hair is about 3.5 inches next to the part line and is only about 2.5 inches towards the outside of the head shape. Then I'm going to take another section and direct it straight back over top of my previous section. I'm going to clean the hair up right to the same angle as my previous section. You can start to see the look of the angle here. I'm going to keep working my way forward in about 1/2 inch sections, drawing the hair back, always to its previous section, creating the angle with my fingers, and cleaning the hair, matching up to the previous section. As we start to work forward, we're going to start increasing the length of the hair. You always want to have the longest hair right at the front hairline. So by elevating the hair back and creating this shape, the longest hair is going to be at the front hairline right next to the part line. That's going to allow us to have the most amount of hair that we can sweep back. Always make sure we're creating the cleanest lines possible. When we're elevating the hair, we want to pull it straight up and clean those lines so that we create that descending angle towards the outside. This is going to prevent an extreme amount of overlap. Alright, now that the shape is finished up top, let's get into some styling. Before I blow dry, I'm going to apply primer. Primer is a volume and texture tonic that's going to allow me to get a little bit more lift and control for my blow dry. I'm going to start with my blow dryer on medium heat and use a brush to direct the hair against the way I want it to flow. If I'm trying to create volume, I'm going to blow dry the hair at the front diagonally forward. This is going to allow me to create a maximum amount of volume right at the front hairline, which is where you want it to be. The rest of the hair, I'm going to use a wrap drying technique to smooth down and get looking a little bit more polished. Wrap drying is making sure we don't lift the hair away from the head shape and using the airflow to smooth the hair down right against the head shape. By doing this, we're going to get a smoother finish that doesn't have any unnecessary volume. Right in the back area, we're going to use the brush and the airflow to compress the hair so that it lays down nice and flat and smooth. Blow drying across the head shape back and forth will allow us to break down any undesirable movements that the hair has caused by the crown. Once we have that smooth, I'm going to start building volume in the area that is blow dried forward. I'm going to start from the back of that section, lifting the hair up using my brush and angling the airflow backwards. This is going to allow me to slowly build volume towards the front. Lifting the hair up away from the head as you blow dry it will help you achieve more volume. I still want to keep the airflow always aiming towards the direction I want the hair to go, which will be that back corner. By the time we get to the front hairline, we're going to elevate the hair up and slightly over the forehead. This is going to create the maximum amount of volume. Now I'm going to use the airflow to smooth down the part line and turn on the cold shot button to lock the volume and shape into place. I like to finish the hair with a cold shot button for about 60 seconds. This really helps lock in the volume and is one of the most important parts of the blow dry. Now it's time to take our texturizer and do some blending. I'm going to start with the weight line. This is the area where the length on top collides with the fade and shorter sides. So we're going to break up the weight line a little bit by elevating it using our cutting comb and using a texture over comb technique. Just working my way through the very ends of the hair allows me to break up these hard lines and create something that blends a little better. I like to make sure that the ends are broken apart because the density is a little artificial when it's cut so short. So I'm going to go through my side weight line and I'm going to make sure I break apart the ends and give it a little bit of diffusion. Then I'm going to take a sliding technique. This is going to increase the flow backwards and break down the weight towards the outside. Then I'm going to elevate the haircut in the same sections that I used to cut it, and I'm going to use a point cutting technique to break the weight apart from the ends. This is going to help the haircut lay smoother. Breaking the ends apart releases the bulk that is built up from a uniform haircut. This type of technique is ideal for this sort of haircut because it allows you better control over bulk removal and allows you to achieve effortless blending. Now I'm going to grab my trimmer and we're just going to do some quick outlining. Your outline of your shape is probably the most important, so the areas where there's a little bit of fuzzy hair around the outside are the areas where I'm going to clean out and put in stronger looking lines. In the recession area, I like to edge out and make those look really clean, but I'm always careful to make sure that I'm not affecting the hairline or creating a brand new hairline. I just want to work with what's there and clean it up. Always making sure that parietal point looks sharp and clean. Sometimes there's little fuzzy hairs that grow down into the forehead. I like to clean these up. However, I always make sure that I am not punching into the hairline. These do grow back and they can be very obvious. When you create a new hairline, it's only going to look good for a day or two before it looks like stubble. And next thing you know, somebody's going to need a hat to regrow this. So don't go too deep. This is what we call a lineup, and it can really make a haircut pop. Once I've done that, I'm going to blow dry the hair again with cold air just to make sure all of the texturized hair has been removed and make sure none of the hair is left stuck to his face. Then I'm going to grab my favorite styling product, which is Claymore from Victory Barber and Brand. I'm going to work a generous amount between my palms. Then I'm going to work it through the hair to create lots of separation and texture and to control the frizz and flyaways. This kind of product is ideal for giving a haircut a much more structured appearance. I'm going to rake this through my hands, just create something that looks separated while getting all the flyaways and fuzz to lie down. Lastly, I'm going to take the edges with my foil and I'm going to remove any last stubble that's in the sideburn area or down in the nape. This is how we get down to absolute skin, and it's truly what makes it a fade. And there we have it. A well-executed mid-fade and a happy customer. Thanks a lot for checking out my YouTube video, guys. Make sure you click like and subscribe. You can always check back here for more advice on grooming. And go to Victory Barber and Brand products at www.victorybarber.com to check out all the products that I used in today's video. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, good luck and good grooming.